Hello. I thought I'd start this video off just by showing you how my player in my game for commercial games is moving right now, and how it's able to sort of climb and stretch and also like get retracted back into itself when it tries to climb around a level, and how it moves, just kind of slides around on the floor when he's not grabbing anything. But this is how my player is moving in the game so far. And the issue I'm having is involving this cog. I'm unable to, the rigid bodies, because I'm freezing the position of the rigid bodies. They are, the rigid body for the cog is also being frozen when in contact with my hands, the hands of this character here. But I've put together a little presentation which might help us out a little here. So here's the character. So it consists of these three rigid bodies: the hands, both hands, and the head of the player, I suppose. The hands are controlled by the left stick of the controller, and they have these overlap spheres on all three of these rigid bodies. The left and right hands serve the same purpose. They just kind of look if any grabbable object is in their circumference, sorry, not in their radius, and the head just checks if the player is grounded, and the player is able to sort of climb walls, and they grab with the shoulder buttons of the controller, but that's not the important part. So the code, which is sort of handling the input of the controller, is with using the Unity input system. I know that I don't know what to call it now. It's not the new Unity input system, but I don't know if you fiddled around with it, but it helps me with the controller inputs. So I can call this custom class here, which has all my sort of inputs defined, like what the actual mapping on the controller is. So I've made a player controls, and I've made my own custom names for left hand and right hand, and for moving the arms and so on. But the important part is here is that the left stick is being read by this vector 2 here. We're using a lambda expression to assign it as a vector 2, and this just reads the value of the left stick and puts them as x and y values. So what I'm able to do with those overlap spheres in this image is I'm able to check if the player is grounded and use that for my calculations, and if they're able to grab the walls around them. But the important part, as I said here, is that the actual movement of the player's arms, this arm vector here, is determined by what this arm vector is reading the left stick as. But and what's happening when the player actually finally grabs onto an object, I'm freezing the rigid bodies of the left hand, the rigid body left and the rigid body right here. I freeze the hands so they're actually able to sort of stick to the walls. But the problem that this causes, and this is sort of where I want to get into sort of the nitty-gritty of things. The problem this causes, as you saw earlier, is that I'm unable to have the physics calculations of the rigid body attached to this cog, even if I were to make it a child, because in the editor right now, the way I have it is that my player has quite a long hierarchy of where the line renderers should begin, so the left side and the right side, and then the hands are only a child of these objects. And I know you mentioned using fixed joints as a way to kind of get around this. So I haven't tried that, but where my thinking has taken me so far is that, so these left and right hands used to be different. You'll see down here I have different prefabs of the versions of the characters I've been making. But I've made these now so they don't have a rigid body, they're just colliders. So I'm actually able to set these as a child to another object. Without it being like, oh no, it's got all these but it's true that the parent child relationship can get quite strange when this cog is not a child of the player as well, which it shouldn't be. And when I disable the part of my code, as I showed you, this is the fix update I screenshot, if I disable it for one hand, for instance, and allow this this script to do its magic, which is sort of I've made the parent of the the player nothing, and then I've also changed the parent of the hand and set it to a child of the object that the player is colliding with, which in this case would be the cog, as I've tagged it a cog sprite. And I've just got some debugs to show me that it is actually detecting the collisions, which it does, so long as I assign so long as I put the script on it. Okay, so now I assign that to only work with the left hand, and you see here, and because of the sort of child parent object of the line renderer, it's taking the sort of transform of the cog and putting it on the line renderer instead of being attached to the wrist, so it causes some really weird visual bugs, and even then it doesn't grab onto the cog properly. So this is the issue I'm having. Maybe I could look into fixed joints, but I was just hoping that this video would help explain it a bit more. I will send you the GitHub repository here, which is it's public, and make sure that when you're testing this, you're on my testing branch, because I haven't committed things to master yet, as I'm still working on this issue. But yeah, I hope that helps, and thank you for your time. I also forgot to mention, I actually did get a version of this working, but I'm using this with just normal keyboard and mouse inputs. This is just my spacebar, which is allowing me to sort of link these two things together, and when it becomes a child of the cog, I'm able to detach it at different times. The only things I haven't done is done a force calculation on what's happening with the inertia of the velocity of this cog. But I have, even though I'm able to do it here, I think the issue that's holding me back in my main project is in the actual other scene, is that it's to do with the sort of child-parent relationship of the two, because this is incredibly simple, but it's a little bit more complicated in that instance.